long story short, if you don't really care about the camera and you don't really care about the clout either, you don't need a flagship. What's up guys, welcome back to another TK Tech video, and today we're talking about mid-range and budget phones and should we be buying them instead over flagships, and why do we pay so much for flagship phones? Okay, so this is my old phone. This is a Galaxy Note 8. I bought this brand new and I've had it for nearly 4 years now, but as you can see, I pretty much wrecked it, smashed it. So that's dead. So then I was looking to buy a new phone and I was going to buy the new Note 20, and then I just decided, you know what, let's not spend £800, something like that. And then I found this. This is the Samsung Galaxy A72. This is the upper end mid-range phone that they have. Now I've already unboxed it and I've used it and have been using it for about a month now. But I just want to show what's in the box. So you get the phone, you get the charging brick, you get the cable. So they actually give you a brick in the mid-range phones, just not in the higher end phones. What I was asking myself was, well, why would I buy a flagship phone? What does a flagship phone give me over this? Or in other words, do I get everything I need from a mid-range? What used to be the case was that unless you bought a flagship phone, you had a poor processor, poor display, poor battery, poor camera, and generally the phone would lag. You wouldn't be able to do any gaming on it. The speakers would usually suck. But that's all changed now. You get a good display, you get a good design, you get good, decent processors, decent cameras, and decent battery life. Actually, very good battery life on this. Actually, better than flagships for much, much less. Okay, so let's talk about the specifications really quickly. It's got a 6.7 inch display, so large display. It's got a Snapdragon 720G processor, which is a very good mid-range processor. It's got 128 GB of storage and 6 GB of RAM. On the rear, it has 4 cameras. It's got a 64 megapixel main camera. It's got a 8 megapixel telephoto camera at 3x optical zoom, and it's got a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, as well as a 5 megapixel macro camera. On the front, it has a 32 megapixel camera as well. Oh, and it also has an in-display fingerprint scanner, so just put your thumb down and it unlocks, and obviously the camera is a hole punch, as you can see. Now, if you've seen any of Samsung advertisements for their mid-range phone, they always rave on about the battery life, camera, and screen.
Awesome screen, awesome camera, long lasting battery life.
Now this is mostly true. The battery on this is really good. It's got 5000 milliamps of battery. On a mid-range processor, this lasts a very long time. So if I go on my battery settings, you can see that this phone actually lasts me around a day and 3 hours. I've got 10 hours remaining with 38% left. So easily would last you over a day, and that's with heavy use of the phone as well. So we're talking about gaming, we're talking about using the camera, we're talking about watching videos. The screen is also really good. It's, like we said, 6.7 inches. It's a Super AMOLED display. It's got 90 Hz refresh rate, which is something you only used to see on flagship phones. And it's got a really high resolution of 1080 by 2400. It's also got what Samsung called an infinity display, so very minimal bezels, a hole punch camera. All of these things are things that have dripped down from flagship phones. Samsung initially put the hole punch camera on their S10, and since then it's dripped down onto their mid-range phones. So you can now get a display like this for around £400, $400. So how can you get a phone this cheap? Well, there are a few things to consider first of all. Firstly is the build quality. This is plastic. The frame is plastic. The only thing that's glass on here is the front display. Now on Samsung's flagship phones, or on most flagship phones, everything's usually made of glass or metal, sorry. So you'd have a glass front, glass back, metal frame. That's the standard. That's the first place that they can save money. The second place to save money is, like we said, the processor. This is a mid-range processor, the 720G. And the third main place they save money is the cameras. So we've listed the specs of the cameras. They do sound quite good on paper, but in reality, there is quite a massive difference between these and the flagship phones. So the quality is a bit grainier. The optical zoom only goes up to 3 times in this one. In flagships, Samsung and other phones, they can go 10, 30 times optical zoom. You also don't get certain features. Obviously, you don't get a 120 Hz display, and you don't get wireless charging. So the thing I had to ask myself, and I think that everybody should ask themselves, is will they use all the features that a flagship comes with, or most of the features at least that their flagship comes with? The way I think about it is that if you're paying, $300,000 on a car that can accelerate to 60 in 3 seconds and can go 250 miles an hour, but you only drive it in the city and the maximum speed you go at is 30 miles an hour, are you really using or making use of what you've paid for? Yes, the flagships have a slightly higher resolution. Do you notice it? No. Yes, the flagships have a higher refresh rate with 120 Hz compared to this 90 Hz. Do you notice it? No, not really. not unless you're really looking for it or you're comparing them directly side by side. Yes, you get better and faster processors with the higher tier model. So, you know, the current Snapdragon 888 or the one that's coming out, the 888 Plus, are going to be much more powerful than this phone here. But do you use that power? Is that power just in reserve? And if it's in reserve, what's the point of having it? You know, do you game a lot? Do you constantly run graphic intense applications? Do you need to keep a lot of applications open? So do you need 12 gigabytes of RAM, or does 6 suffice? I've personally gamed on this phone. I played Call of Duty. It's very smooth. Yep, the frame rate might not be as high. Yeah, you might not be able to use the highest quality settings, but mostly that's fine with me. I'm okay with that. And if you're not someone who uses intensive applications, do you really need to pay hundreds of dollars more for that flagship phone? The second thing I want to talk about is the materials. So this phone, my Note 8, it's got a glass body, it's got a glass back, it's got a metal frame. This phone, plastic body, plastic frame. Put them both in a case. On both phones, all I'm feeling is plastic and rubber. So when am I experiencing, or when are you going to be experiencing the metal body and the metal frame? If you're someone who has your phone always in the case, you never really take it out, you're never experiencing those high-end materials. It's like buying a Gucci t-shirt but covering it up with a H&M jacket. For all I know, and for all anyone else would know, this could have a glass back and this could have a metal frame. So for me personally, the materials doesn't really matter that much. However, there are some things that you get with a flagship that you just don't get with other things. So we talked about camera. If a camera is really something that you want, go for a flagship. There are certain things that flagships have that mid-range phones don't have. Specifically for the Note, it's the S Pen. You know, you can't really find that on a mid-range phone. You can find it on like a cheap Motorola phone, but I guarantee you it's not going to be as good. Obviously things like new technology, like the foldable phones that Samsung are releasing, they're not anytime close going to come to the mid-range line either. But you get additional things with mid-range phones, so you still get a headphone jack, and usually you do get a bigger battery as well. So if you can get everything you need for $600 less, then personally, I would go for a mid-range. It doesn't have to be this mid-range phone. There are a lot of mid-range phones from Xiaomi, Oppo, Huawei. You have OnePlus with the OnePlus Nord. These phones could have everything you need and, you know, save a decent amount of money as well. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I have another video coming up on an ultra budget phone. I'll give you a hint. It's made by Xiaomi. That phone really pushes the limit for what you can get for under £200, and in some areas it's actually better than this one. Alright, that's it from me, and I'll see you in the next TCAD Tech video.